Section 2 of Gray's Anatomy Part 4. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by M.L. Cohen. Anatomy of the Human Body Part 4 by Henry Gray. Structure of the Nervous System Part 2. Structure of the peripheral nerves and ganglia. The cerebrospinal nerves consist of numerous nerve fibers collected together and enclosed in membranous sheaths. A small bundle of fibers enclosed in a tubular sheath is called a funiculus. If the nerve is of small size, it may consist of only a single funiculus, but if large, the funiculi are collected together into larger bundles of fasciculi, which are bound together in a common membranous investment. In structure, the common membranous investment or sheath of the whole nerve, epineurium, as well as the septa given off from it to separate the fasciculi, consist of connective tissue composed of white and yellow elastic fibers, the latter existing in great abundance. The tubular sheath of the funiculi, perineurium, is a fine, smooth, transparent membrane which may be easily separated in the form of a tube from the fibers it encloses. In structure, it is made up of connective tissue, which has a distinctly lamellar arrangement. The nerve fibers are held together and supported within the funiculus by delicate connective tissue called the endoneurium. It is continuous with septae which pass inward from the innermost layer of the perineurium and shows a ground substance in which are embedded fine bundles of fibrous connective tissue running for the most part longitudinally. It serves to support capillary vessels arranged so as to form a network with elongated meshes. The cerebrospinal nerves consist almost exclusively of medullated nerve fibers, only a very small proportion of non-medullated being present. The blood vessels supplying a nerve end in a minute capillary plexus, the vessels composing which pierce the perineurium and run, for the most part, parallel with the fibers. They are connected together by short transverse vessels, forming narrow oblong meshes, similar to the capillary system of muscle. Fine, non-medullated nerve fibers, vasomotor fibers, accompany these capillary vessels, and break up into elementary fibrils, which form a network around the vessels. Horsley has demonstrated certain medullated fibers running in the epineurium and terminating in small spheroidal tactile corpuscles, or end bulbs of Krauss. These nerve fibers, which Marshall believes to be sensory, and which he has termed nervi nervorum, are considered by him to have an important bearing upon certain neuralgic pains. The nerve fibers, so far as it is present known, do not coalesce, but pursue an uninterrupted course from the center to the periphery. In separating a nerve, however, into its component funiculi, it may be seen that these do not pursue a perfectly insulated course, but occasionally join at very acute angle with other funiculi proceeding in the same direction. From this, branches are given off to join again in like manner with other funiculi. It must be distinctly understood, however, that in these communications the individual nerve fibers do not coalesce, but merely pass into the sheath of the adjacent nerve, become intermixed with its nerve fibers, and again pass on to intermingle with the nerve fibers in some adjoining funiculus. Nerves, in their course, subdivide into branches, and these frequently communicate with branches of a neighboring nerve. The communications which thus take place form what is called a plexus. Sometimes a plexus is formed by the primary branches of the trunks of the nerves, as the cervical, brachial, lumbar, and sacral plexuses, and occasionally by the terminal funiculi, as in the plexus formed at the periphery of the body. In the formation of a plexus, the component nerves divide, then join, and again subdivide in such a complex manner that the individual funiculi become interlaced most intricately, so that each branch leaving a plexus may contain filaments from all the primary nerve trunks which form the plexus. In the formation also of smaller plexuses at the periphery of the body, there is a free interchange of the funiculi and primitive fibers. In each case, however, the individual fibers remain separate and distinct. It is probable that through this interchange of fibers, every branch passing off from a plexus has a more extensive connection with the spinal cord than if it had proceeded to its distribution without forming connections with other nerves. Consequently, the parts supplied by these nerves have more extended relations with the nervous centers. By this means, also, groups of muscles may be associated for combined action. The sympathetic nerves are constructed in the same manner as the cerebrospinal nerves, but consist mainly of non-medullated fibers, collected in funiculi and enclosed in sheaths of connective tissue. There is, however, in these nerves a certain admixture of medullated fibers. The number of these latter varies in different nerves and may be estimated by the color of the nerve. Those branches of the sympathetic which present a well-marked gray color are composed chiefly of non-medullated nerve fibers intermixed with a few medullated fibers, while those of a white color contain many of the latter fibers and few of the former. The cerebrospinal and sympathetic nerve fibers convey various impressions. The sensory nerves, called also centripetal or afferent nerves, transmit to the nervous centers impressions made upon the peripheral extremities of the nerves, and in this way the mind, through the medium of the brain, becomes conscious of external objects. The centrifugal or efferent nerves transmit impressions from the nervous centers to the parts to which the nerves are distributed. These impressions, either exciting muscular contraction or influencing the processes of nutrition, growth, and secretion. Origins and terminations of nerves. By the expression, quote, the termination of nerve fibers, end quote, is signified their connections with the nerve centers and with the parts they supply. The former are sometimes called their origins or central terminations, the latter their peripheral terminations. Origins of nerves. The origins in some cases is single, that is to say, the whole nerve emerges from the nervous center by a single root. In other instances, the nerve arises by two or more roots, which come off from different parts of the nerve center, sometimes widely apart from each other. And it often happens, when a nerve arises in this way by two roots, that the function of these two roots are different, as, for example, in the spinal nerves, each of which arises by two roots, the anterior of which is motor, and the posterior sensory. The point where the nerve root or roots emerge from the surface of the nervous center is named a superficial or apparent origin. But the fibers of the nerves can be traced for a certain distance into the substance of the nervous center to some portion of the gray matter, which constitutes the deep or real origin of the nerve. The centrifugal or efferent nerve fibers originate in the nerve cells of the gray substance, the axis cylinder processes of these cells being prolonged to form fibers. In the case of the centripetal or afferent nerves, the fibers grow inward either from the nerve cells in the origins of special sense, for example the retina, or from nerve cells in the ganglia. Having entered the nerve center, they branch and send their ultimate twigs among the cells, without, however, uniting with them. Peripheral terminations of nerves. Nerve fibers terminate peripherally in various ways, and these may be conveniently studied in the sensory and motor nerves respectively. The terminations of the sensory nerves are dealt with in the section on sense organs. Motor nerves can be traced into either unstriped or striped muscular fibers. In the unstriped or involuntary muscles, the nerves are derived from the sympathetic and are composed mainly of non-medullated fibers. Near their terminations, they divide into numerous branches which communicate and form intimate plexuses. At the junction of the branches, small triangular nuclear bodies, ganglion cells, are situated. From these plexuses, minute branches are given off which divide and break up into the ultimate fibrillae of which the nerves are composed. These fibrillae course between the involuntary muscle cells and, according to Elischer, terminate on the surfaces of the cells opposite the nuclei in minute swellings.